The Bible, revered, quoted, misunderstood. Countless have flipped through its pages, but very few have truly grasped the depth of its strangest stories. Buried within its sacred lines lie verses so perplexing, so otherworldly. They're often skipped, whispered about, or simply dismissed as too bizarre to explain. But today, we dive headfirst into the mystery. These are the 10 strangest passages in the Bible, and what they might really mean. 1. Stones that spoke to God. What if you could ask the universe a yes or no question and get an answer straight from the divine? In ancient Israel, high priests carried a pair of sacred stones close to their heart, the Urim and Thummim, nestled in the breastplate of judgment. These weren't decorative, they were oracles. When David fled from a murderous King Saul and faced a looming threat from the Philistines, he summoned Abiathar the priest, who bore the ephod. With trembling urgency, David asked the Lord, "Should I attack?" The stones gave the answer, yes, but his men hesitated, so David asked again. Again, the stones affirmed. Later, when Saul plotted to trap David in the city of Keilah, David asked, "Will they betray me?" The stones replied, "They will." But this tool wasn't just for David. Saul once used them too, and got silence. That silence exposed a hidden sin. His son Jonathan had broken a solemn oath by tasting honey. The stones condemned him, and Saul prepared to kill his own son, until the people, stirred by justice, saved him. These were more than relics. They were a hotline to heaven, and they did not always speak. 2. The donkey that saw. What a prophet couldn't imagine this. A prophet riding a donkey heading to curse an entire nation. And his donkey refuses to go forward, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Why? Because an angel with a drawn sword blocked the path, visible only to the animal. Furious Balaam beat the donkey. Then something wild happened. The donkey spoke. "What have I done to you that you've struck me these 3 times?" And then Balaam talks back. Only then does Balaam's spiritual blindness lift. He sees the angel, he falls, and he learns sometimes the wisest warning comes from the most unexpected voice. 3. The ghostly handwriting on the wall, a party fit for a king, goblets stolen from God's temple, 1,000 nobles toasting idols, and then the room freezes. Fingers appear floating midair, and they begin to write. Terrified, King Belshazzar watches as a message etches itself into the palace wall. Mene, mene, tekel, upharsin. No one can read it except Daniel. His translation, your kingdom has been measured, found wanting, and it's over. That very night, the king dies, and Babylon falls. The goat law that shaped a religion. 3 times, the Bible gives a peculiar command. Do not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. Oddly specific and deeply symbolic. Some say it was a pagan ritual, a magical rite meant to increase fertility. Others believe it was an ancient call to mercy. Don't use a mother's nurturing milk as a tool of death against her child. Today, this obscure commandment underpins kosher law, leading to one of Judaism's strictest traditions, never mixing meat and dairy. 5. Moses sees God's back on Mount Sinai. Moses makes a daring request. Show me your glory. But God replies, you cannot see my face and live. And yet, God makes a way. He places Moses at the cleft of a rock, covers him with his hand, and passes by. Moses sees only God's back, or at least what the Bible describes as such. Was it literal, symbolic, a vision? The Bible doesn't say, but one thing is clear. This was the closest any mortal had come to the blinding brilliance of God. and lived to tell about it. 6. Jesus versus the stones of judgment. In the Old Testament, adultery could mean one fate, stoning. One day, a woman caught in the act is dragged before Jesus. The crowd holds stones. The law is clear. What will Jesus do? He stoops, he writes in the dirt. Silence. Then he rises and says, "Let him who is without sin cast the first stone." One by one, the accusers drop their stones and vanish. Jesus turns to her. "Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." In one moment, mercy speaks louder than law, and judgment gives way to grace. 7. Jesus curses. A fig tree? Hungry and walking with his disciples, Jesus sees a fig tree full of leaves, yet no fruit. Though it wasn't fig season, he curses it. "May no one ever eat from you again." By morning, the tree is withered. Why curse a fruitless tree out of season? Because it wasn't about hunger. It was a parable, a symbol. The fig tree represented Israel, beautiful on the outside, but barren within. Judgment wasn't for trees, it was for hearts. 8. The second death. Hell isn't the final stop. Revelation speaks of something darker, the second death, a lake of fire where death itself is destroyed. This is where the beast, the false prophet, and even Satan are cast, where judgment is permanent, where names not written in the book of life meet their final fate, no escape, no end, a place of eternal consequence. 9. The mysterious Melchizedek. No father, no mother, no birth, no death, just a man who appears, blesses Abraham with bread and wine, and vanishes. His name, Melchizedek, the King of Righteousness. Centuries later, Hebrews reveals his secret. He resembles the Son of God. Some say he was a man, others an eternal priest, still others a divine foreshadowing of Christ himself. Whoever he was, he breaks every rule of genealogy and expectation. 10. Wheels, covered in eyes. Ezekiel saw something few ever have, a vision of God's throne. There were 4 living creatures, each with 4 faces, man, lion, ox, and eagle. They had wings, glowing limbs, and moved without turning. Beside them, gigantic wheels within wheels, covered entirely in eyes. These weren't chariots. These were living mechanisms, heavenly engines of divine presence. This wasn't imagination. Ezekiel called it the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. A vision so vivid, it haunts and inspires to this day. These stories, puzzling, powerful, profound, aren't just relics of ancient times. They're glimpses behind the curtain of the eternal. The question is, are we ready to understand what they reveal?